recipe for great food is simple. Make it fresh. Wings to go in Greenville, where every order is a custom. The recipe for great food is simple. Make it fresh. Wings to go in Greenville, where every order is a custom order made with fresh ingredients. Wings to go, 7818 Wesley Street in Greenville. Simply great wings.
Love your car or truck? You'll love it more with a new sound system from Super Sound in Greenville. They've got all the hot brands like JL Audio, Alpine, Hyphonics, Pioneer, Rockford Fosgate, Kicker, Heiss, and more. And great technicians to do the install. Super Sound in Greenville, 5013 Wesley Street. They make sound move you. Super Sound and Security.
Recipe for great food is simple. Make it fresh. Wings to go in Greenville, where every order is a custom order made with fresh ingredients. Wings to go, 7818 Wesley Street in Greenville. Simply great wings.
Love your car or truck? You'll love it more with a new sound system from Super Sound in Greenville. They've got all the hot brands like JL Audio, Alpine, Hyphonics, Pioneer, Rockford Fosgate, Kicker, Heiss, and more. And great technicians to do the install. Super Sound in Greenville, 5013 Wesley.
I will call the regular session to order. I'd like to welcome the fact that showed up. Of course, is our attempt to try and get back to semi-normal so that we can have people be able to address the council as we like. And as I said earlier, I'm impressed with the work that the staff did in getting it set up today and getting the microphones and everything set up. And we'll continue to work to improve this so that it gets better and better. But work with us tonight and we'll do the best we can. All right, we have Pastor Micaiah Johnson, Micah, I'm sorry, from Bethlehem Baptist Church will give the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for another expression of your grace and an opportunity to stand before your presence. Father, we know that we're here to conduct city business, but we pray that you will be the leader, the guider, and the author and finisher of our faith. Father, we pray that as we come together with all of our collaborative efforts and intellect and minds, we pray that you would give us wisdom from on high to speak for and make decisions on behalf of the city that we live in. Have your way. In your son's name, I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. Appreciate it. Okay, we have no presentations tonight, so the next item is citizens to be heard. Citizens to be heard are invited to address the council on topics not already scheduled for public hearings or listed on the agenda. If you haven't already, please present a citizen's comment card to the city secretary, at least by the time you speak, so that we've got a record of that. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes to conduct themselves in a civil manner. City Council cannot act on items not listed on the agenda in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act. Concerns will be addressed by the city staff. They may be placed on future agenda or addressed by some other course of response.
Wayne Morris.
Wayne? I'm sorry, and while he's coming up, let the record reflect that all council members are present with the exception of Holly.
Often and knocking out the city leader. Love you all. Well.
And I would ask that when you speak, do it slowly because getting the reverberation may be hard to understand.
Okay. Well, first of all, I had wanted to thank Ms. Goetcher for her 2 terms on the council. Hopefully I'll have another opportunity. But I wanted to say we seem to be missing a new
name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. 5600 Vale Street, Greenville, 75402. Been so long since we had one.
I know. Just thought you could do it on an email. Go ahead.
There you go. We seem to be missing a member of our city council tonight. According to guidance provided by Christina Worrell Atkins, Legal Director, Elections Division of the Texas Secretary of State, dated March 24th, 2020, and distributed on the TML website to all, those candidates who ran unopposed will be able to take their seats after May 2, 2020, since the elections were postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and would not have to be listed on the November ballot as uncontested, as they are already been elected. Is Mr. Cruz unaware of this, or has he declined to be seated at this time? The city has declined to seat to Mr. Cruz, or if he has declined it at this time, will this allow to open back up this seat for an additional candidate or a write-in effort for an additional candidate during the currently scheduled November election? Can the city attorney please address this and additionally provide any information of what other directives issued by the state are not being taken forth at this time? Thank you.
Well, we are following the state's directives. That's from TML.
Thank you. Anybody
James
else?
Evans.
James?
Good to be live again up here with y'all. James Evans, 6410 Buena Vista Drive, Greenville, Texas, 75402. I wish to thank Council Member Dr. Jerry Ransom for recently asking the Council to consider raising the homestead property tax exemption for those 65 and over. Hopefully, if approved, this will help to compensate for moving the tax-free election from May to November. On April 30th, I turned in a public information request related to the city's change in operating procedures due to the COVID-19. I'm still waiting to receive the copies of communications between our city leaders relating to these events. I'm currently going through the information that I have received. While reviewing these records, I've continued to read and watch news reports of governmental entities in Texas that have furloughed employees. and started making budget cuts. Grayson County is looking at $1 million budget cut. Governor Abbott has requested 5% budget adjustments for many areas of our state government. I'm grateful that our city has not had to furlough any employees. But imagine my surprise when I opened up the open records files I requested to find that in just 5 weeks, our city spent over $20,000 purchasing meals for city staff. Whether this purchase was from local, state, or federal money, it was still an expenditure. Our city staff must learn that in addition to taxing and seeking grants to support their spending habits, they must also do their part to curb spending. Science fiction movies continue to be very accurate in their predicting the future. The 1971 movie Andromeda Strain bears a scary resemblance to the current COVID-19 epidemic. Tonight, I'd like to ask all of you to review the Hunger Games movie series. While reading the May 23rd, 2020 Herald Banner, front page headline, county loses thousands of jobs during pandemic, unemployment rate highest in more than 25 years. I shook my head and remembered that our city recently spent over $20,000 in just 5 weeks on lunches for staff. Just like in the Hunger Games, it must be great to have a government job in hard economic times. Thank you.
Thank you.
Betty Crump.
Buddy?
Buddy Crump, 503 Ermine, Greenville, Texas, 75402. I want to challenge the city on trying to reduce their cost. If you listen to the president today, he talked about a new thing for people who have diabetes. One takes insulin. 60-some odd % of the senior citizens cannot afford that insulin. They give up, which is bad things. He has lowered it with his combination with working with the private firms, where now they're talking about it costing the senior citizens $1 a day, say $400 and some odd for that insulin a month.
I'm sorry, buddy. $1 a day for what? I missed the very first part of it.
Senior citizen on insulin for type 1 diabetes
Thank you.
was $400 and something per month. With him working with the private industries and so forth, they announced this afternoon that they got it down to about $1 a day. 60-some odd % of senior citizens could not afford the insulin. I am saying senior citizens in Greenville are facing some of the same choices. You know, for a year now, we've asked the city council to look at the property tax. And Mr. Ransom has mentioned a couple of times a process he's looking at. But other than that, we're sitting here still talking about it. The seniors are really taking it bad in this virus problem, just as everybody else. So I challenge the city to look at the cost. I'm a little surprised that we're paying in a short time frame, buying lunches. A lot of restaurants are giving out free lunches to the first responders. Do we have the money? And also, I asked the city council, I'm surprised it's not on the agenda. For you do not know, I was the commander of both Air Force units out here at the plant. Spent millions of dollars a year on contracts. We had major milestones. When those milestones come up, we wanted to know about it. But you just had a milestone come up. The 21st of May, Steinbach's project was supposed to let the city know about their project. It's not on the agenda tonight. Why isn't it? Why cannot we discuss it? We discuss it and bring it out to the public. Where do we stand on a major project that could take this city down? A couple of years, some of you guys on the council were talking about 21 being the year we really lowered our rate down taxes. It's not going to happen, but we invested. Let us know what's going on. Keep us up to date. Be transparent with us. And one quick problem. I want to thank young lady. I got on the city website today. It's the best I've ever seen it. It's easy it's friendly user. It's friendly to get to. As an old guy that doesn't know much about computers, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak?
If he asks an issue of fact related to fact, I think you might give a short
Please do.
explanation. Buddy, the thing that was on the calendar for last week was not something that Steinbeck had to give to us. It was a condition precedent for his part of the project, so that if he didn't get financing to his own satisfaction, then he could unilaterally get out of the contract. It wasn't something where he was required to bring that to the city. He doesn't owe us that information under the way the contract is written. He doesn't have to tell us under the contract the way that it's written. He doesn't have to send us anything because of that. It's a deadline for him to be satisfied that he's going to have enough money. And that if he's not by that date, then he can get out of the contract. If he is by that date, we don't hear about it. We just move on toward the other deadlines that are a year from that date. Yes, that's correct. That's the way the contract is written. Well, if he hadn't met the condition precedent, then he would have been required to tell the city if he wanted to get out of the contract, and that hasn't happened. So yes, that is the assumption. Well, because you didn't ask it. I mean, I'm not going to take questions from the audience. If you want to sign up, I can answer a question like that. I can answer questions of fact, yes.
If you're going to ask a question, here, please. Name and address. So that everybody can hear you.
207 Patterson Drive, Greenville 75402. If I understand that correctly, the city is just going to take Steinbeck's word for it that he has secured the financing?
Yes.
Doesn't that seem like a lot of trust for a project of this size? Considering
I'm not going to get into an
December-
argument with
No,
you, and I'm not going to get into hypotheticals. The answer is yes. That's the way that the contract was written.
I dealt with it all. That is awful. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I will close citizens to be heard. Next item, we have public hearing and consideration and action on a resolution designating myself as the filing authority for Merchant McIntyre Associates LLC for a grant management service, providing for a budget amendment. I received a email back about the first part of May identifying a company, and in this case it's Merchant McIntyre Associates, that specializes in obtaining federal grants for municipalities. With no obligation, they said they'd be happy to send us a checklist for federal funding grants. I requested that on May 3rd. On May 4th, I received the checklist, and I submitted it to the city manager and asked her to look at it, fill in what numbers she and the staff thought were appropriate. And she completed that checklist on May 9th. And it was we have a copy of the checklist available for the screen. Okay. She completed that, sent it to me. I turned around and sent it back to the people. The next day, I received an email from one of their vice presidents, said they were impressed with the speed and thoroughness of our response. They said it's rare for a municipality to be so nimble. They suggested that we get together for a conference call to talk about the potential for a future on this, and I asked the city secretary to do that, set up and held a conference call on May 15th. Now, the people that were involved from our side was Jerry Ransom, Daniel Ray Summer, Greg Sims, and Carol, and myself. We talked to 4 of their people about the potential of what kind of a program they have and what they would do. The main thing that they do is they help a city look at and work to try and acquire federal grants. And as an example, the Economic Development Administration in DC, the federal part, their budget is normally $135 million. But with all the money that's being dumped by the federal government because of COVID, they're looking to help everybody. The EDA's budget is now $1.5 billion. So it's gone up considerably from 135 million to 1.5 billion. What they identified during the phone conference, that we didn't know a lot about them, and we don't like to do business without knowing anything about somebody and what they've got. We spent the better part of an hour on the phone conference, and what they've offered up is for $7,500 a month that they would work directly with us, and they've identified that that $7,500 is the total cost. It's not a matter of if you win this, we get a certain percentage or things like that. So if they were to get a $1 million grant for us, they don't get a percentage of that. They get the flat $7,500 a month. And as a starting point, they suggest a 90-day program, and that gives us the opportunity to look at what they can do, work with us, see what the potential is for some programs out there that would be grants. Mr. Ransom asked if there was any good opportunities and whether they would be able to work on multiple grants. They said with the package that we put together with them, and it covered, I would say, probably 80% of their overall checklist. Summer and her staff came together with some great numbers, back up on it. They said they would be delighted they could work on multiple grants because it showed our flexibility in trying to get a lot of things done. What they would do is they would, on their 90-day plan, first 30 days, they would prepare for and do a resource on facilities and other needs that would involve a lot of discussions with the city staff and personnel, just so that they've got more facts about what we're looking at on the program. Second 30 days, they would provide a comprehensive grant strategy, and that would identify the dollars that are available, potential due dates for when material has to be turned in, possibilities of whether there's a good chance to get it or not, and also an action plan. On the third 30-day period, we would get together on with key grant personnel, because for every organization that does grants, there's always a team that's heading that up in the federal government. And so they would get us in touch with these people and help us get people saying that we really want it. They would do most of the grant writing, but would need some help from the city to do that. And when a notice of funding opportunity arises, they would break down the threshold questions, try and prepare the best for the grant before. They said their best practice is to, because of their inside information working in DC and doing this kind of work since 1994, they know the people out there, and before a grant is officially announced as being available, they would help us work to prepare so that we could submit it on time or even early. And they would help us find the key points. The where every grant, regardless of the organization, is different, city would have the right to, city would have, the city would have the right to decide whether to go ahead and apply for that. And one of the big deciding factors on that would be what is the percentage of match funds that we would have to come up with. But there's also a lot of grants out there that do not require any kind of a match. So it would give us the capability to look at an area that I think we have been very lacking in doing, and that is in applying for federal grants. And that's what they do 100% is federal grants. They don't go after state or thing like that. It's strictly federal grants. And so they think that we've got, they believe that we would have a good chance at selecting some funds. So what I'm looking for is in the letter, and I sent all the council members a copy of the checklist and the numbers that we put in and a backup that some are provided on what each of those programs were. I would like to recommend that we go ahead and look at the 90-day period, see what we get. We would invest $22,500, which if they get a $25,000 grant, we've got a return on our investment. But I would expect that they would be going after a lot bigger programs than that. And then at the end of the 90 days, we as a council can decide, yes, let's go ahead and stay with them and pay the remaining part of the $90,000, take them for a year, or we can say, thanks, no thanks, we're not interested. So, in my mind, I think it gives us a good opportunity to find out what federal grants are out there, get people that do this for a living, help us try and acquire something. So I will open it up to any questions council has.
Do we not have a full-time grant administrator on staff?
Grants that we have gotten, my knowledge, that we get through the state, we've got a grant writer down in Tyler, but he doesn't go after federal grants, or if he does, they're very small.
Who handles Civic? Is that our grant writer? Because when Dr. Ransom asked me to start looking into grants and everything and looking around to some of our comparison cities and the locality cities, Denison, a lot of other cities, small cities have an individual in the development department that is also has an assigned duties grant administrator. And if we don't have one, I don't mind taking these people out for a trial run, but I really believe we're losing hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars a year of not having somebody in-house that can monitor and write grants. Well, I think with budget coming up, we need to add a duty, not necessarily but a duty, somebody to become a grant administrator and maybe work with these folks to learn the ropes.
Well, I think that one of the things that I saw this as a benefit, that's what these people are professionals in doing, is going after the federal grants. We could take and hire somebody, and unless they've got that experience, now we spend a lot of time bringing somebody in and they start researching who does what grants, how, what's out there. So I think that, like you said, if they work as a person with these people, that would be a benefit. And I think that after we see what they do in 90 days, figure out what the workload would be, that may be a viable option.
Yeah, because you said $90,000 a year if we decide to keep them, right? Roughly.
Right.
So if we could train one of our folks to pick up this responsibility, then we could keep it in-house and cut out the middleman.
I think you'd have a hard time finding a single person that the total cost of the city would be less than $90,000 that would do as good of a job as an outside firm specializes in that sort of thing. So, I like the fact it's a lot easier to terminate a contract than terminate a person. Anytime we can outsource that kind of thing, and as long as we keep up with making sure that their performance matches their compensation, I think it's worthwhile looking at.
And for the audience out there, I apologize, we didn't have a copy of the checklist that they had, but they broke it down into 4 different sections. One was infrastructure that had to do with roads and highway improvements, bridge modernization, construction, sewer projects and water treatment facilities, drinking water modernization, other categories. In public safety, law enforcement technology upgrades, crime and prevention, safety programs, criminal rehab initiatives, domestic violence prevention programs, drug abuse treatment programs, fire truck and personal training. Community development, they've got workforce training, downtown renovation and revitalization, housing projects, brownfields, mediation and cleanup. And then in a community health and wellness, it was homelessness prevention and alleviation, public health, food insecurity, and food system improvements. And the package that Summer put together for staff, he identified $216 million or $216 million covering all of those projects. So they were impressed that we could provide them with this kind of information, and emails and communications that I've had with the individuals has indicated that they were impressed with what we provided them.
Summer, up until, before this, basically, has it been on just the department heads to identify funding sources for their projects? And so if they were aware of a grant, then we might have to go out and hire a grant writer to do that work and try to get that grant.
Yes.
And because you think about even the police communications equipment that we've been talking about for years, that's just expensive for us to really even contemplate. But if there's grant money out there to get it, I think that's something that's worth looking at.
I think if they do identify opportunities, we're going to have to supplement their grant writing. I don't think they'll do all the grant writing for us. I was on that call. And I posed a hypothetical because, to some extent, I questioned their business model. The hypothetical I gave was, I think, like, suppose you went out and got us a $2 million grant in 1 year, so you're going to charge us only $90,000. And I felt like they were significantly undervaluing their services myself. So that raised a red flag for me. But if we want to, I guess I would support this first phase myself, but I'd like to see some significant response for them where I'm willing to go to the next level myself. That's kind of the way I feel. I want to see I'd like to see, of course there won't be results, but I'd like to see some significant opportunity identified this first 90 days in order for me to move forward with this model.
Well, I agree. I'd take them out for the trial run, but in the meantime, I would also like Summer or staff to check with our other comparison cities and see how they have a grant on board, what they have access to, because this is just federal only, not state. So I'm sure somebody who's engaged, knows the city, can be cognizant of state, county, and federal grant availability, and it shouldn't be a full-time position. I don't know if it is or not. So anyway.
Well, my personal opinion on an in-house grant writer is once you get them trained, then they've got to, they're not going to immediately know about all the grants and how to apply to each and every one and the intricacies of applying to city, federal, whatever kind of grants are out there. So I think we need to go with the already out there trained people. Give it a run, see what happens. If they do us good, keep them again. It's going to take a while to bring somebody else that you just trained up to stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said.
Oh, Cedric?
Well, this here is just a 90-day run, or 7,500.
It's $7,500 a month, so it'd be $22,500 for the 90 days. And at that point, we could say yay or nay.
I'm in agreement with Mr. Atkins on. I believe in doing a bunch of stuff else, if possible. Hopefully, that's something.
All right, at this time, unless there's any other questions, staff, at this time I'll open it up for a public hearing. Anybody wish to comment on this?
We have Buddy Crump. Buddy Crump.
Buddy?
Who are you?
That depends on whether you can remember.
That's where you got to carry an ID. Just a couple of questions. We have open discussions on this. When you was doing the questioning to them, did they say what they've done for other small cities?
Yes, they did. And there was in the packet, in the letter that was council packet that went out to public, they identified several cities of what they had gotten for them.
And was it a decent
One of
value?
one of them was $14 million.
$1.5 million.
They said they got 14.1 million for Lexington, 11.4 for city of Pompeo Beach, 1 million for city of Boone, Iowa, village of Park Franklin, several $1 million for multiple road bridges.
Okay, good. I just have a question. And I agree with Dr. Ransom from my viewpoint. Try for 90 days. See what they can come up with, what the city manager can work with them on. If it's not there, don't commit this city to more budget or increase in expenditures. Draw a hard line. Watch our cost. Our costs are going up every year. No, and I'm still, but I agree. Do the 90 days, but stop there and take a hard look at it and put some stops in there. If you don't like it, don't get the city paying more expenditures on it. I support it. That's the plan. But that was the plan on Steinbach about a month ago. The city manager made a statement. She's going to know on the 21st. Now we found out today we don't know. I question the thought pattern sometimes.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'm Victor Gore, 2501 Rolling Hills here in Greenville. In just listening to this, what you said that they told you of other cities they'd had.
Excellent.
Did you contact those cities to confirm that?
I did, yes.
Did?
I did, yes.
Okay, because we get things that people say. And how many entities are they supporting and helping, government entities? How many different? Are we talking hundreds, 50, thousands?
I think it was more than 50, but I don't know if we got an exact count.
Are they nationwide?
They're based in DC, and they do stuff for all the states.
They've been in business since 1994. Been doing this out of DC.
I worked in McKinney schools for a long time, and we found that the professional grant writer benefited us significantly. Whatever level, somebody who knew what they were to write and prepare would make the benefit. And I think that is something we have to consider, using somebody who knows how to construct the argument and the presentation.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak?
I'm still ballpark. I still live at 207 Patterson Drive. I want to agree with Dr. Ransom. Frankly, I don't think that 90K is going to get you a lot of research over a year, and it is certainly not going to get you a viable grant document. And has anybody lately listened to the rhetoric that comes out of DC? I would run to the nearest exit before I went into a contract with somebody operating out of Washington. Lobbyist in the Beltway band. I lived there for 11 years, guaranteed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, at this time, I will close the public hearing. Any comments from the staff? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Second. Gary, your motion is
Approve the ordinance.
approve the 90-day.
Contract with them for an initial period of 30 days at $22,500 stipulated deliverables that they have indicated 30-day interval.
Just for, said 30 days, 90 days.
I mean, they have delivered.
Well, like we said, we don't know them that well. That's why the 90 days gives a shot to say, guys are out to lunch and they're really worthwhile. We don't.
They find us, or did we find them? I didn't. Huh?
They found us.
They cold called.
Marketing. They sent out a marketing letter like a lot of places. All right, I've got a motion from Jerry, seconded by John. Please give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down for a vote. Did you have something else you wanted to say?
A lot of students. I don't know what. Like that day, I was all everything. At that point in time, I think it was 7 to 9. So I hate to say it, money in the school. Guys can find any money. All size down, Texas. I don't know. They claim that. And I've said, Atkins had experience with that. Help us try to find something that have other at least trial period. That's if I believe anything would happen. I don't know.
But there isn't.
Certainly, they found us cold call. I think it probably they talk about some things, opportunities. You know, every city wants street, or they want us to extend it. Yeah, every one of those types of grants, whatever, 5,000 to the city. They identified some street. Might make us. That was one of them was water treatment.
What was the max amount?
I'm sorry.
What was the max dollar amount for a grant? Not for
There was one for 14 million, one for 11 million.
Is that the maximum?
I don't know if there is a maximum. Like I said, Summer entered package for 216 million, and you know, if we went for a year, spent $90,000, and they got us one $100,000 grant, we've got our money back. We've got a return on investment. So part of it is let's see what they do in 90. That's what I'm talking about is a pull up grant, not that we've got to match 50% or anything like that. If we receive $100,000 in grant money, then we've got a return on our investment. All right, I've got them. I think it's across the board that they do however many customers, and like any business, they're looking to increase their customer base.
I will say, Mayor, and one of the things you said, I'd rather have $90,000 we can spend on anything than $100,000 we have to spend the way the federal government tells us to. So grant programs as a whole, I don't love, but the money's out there, and somebody's going to get it and our city needs it, and we need to see if we can figure it out. So, yeah, I don't love the grant program at all. I don't know if it would be worthwhile if we only got 100,000, but my expectation, they can far exceed that amount, and I hope that they're able to find us some big money.
Okay.
I agree, if you don't mind. I agree with what everybody's saying. I don't mind trying these folks, but I view them similar to a lobbyist, being a DC-based organization. Sure, they're looking out for us part-time. They've got multiple clients. And that's why I'm pretty adamant about developing an in-house granted mills down the road. Thanks.
All right, I've got a motion, second. Please give me a thumbs up or thumbs down for the 90-day. Got 5 yes and 1 no. Okay, we come up with public testimony, closing the public hearing, by the way. Moving on, public testimony occurs when citizens are invited to address the council on topics already on the agenda. Speakers will be invited to speak at the time the council discusses the item. Please present your citizen's comment card to the city secretary by the time you speak, and you'll be limited to 2 minutes on each item. First item we have is item 7A, consideration and action on an ordinance authorizing an amendment to Chapter 18 of the Code of Ordinance regarding stopping, standing, sitting, and remaining at certain intersections within the city. Chief Smith.
Mayor and Council, I spoke earlier during our work session about the increase in disaffected, located people. I think most of our citizens encounter them at our major intersections along our major arteries. In combination with our city attorney, crafted an ordinance that will prohibit stopping, standing scenarios that we see. These are going to be at our interstate, our state highways, U.S. highways. And it extends for 2 blocks in every direction. So this is a tool that we're looking for to move folks along, to increase safety. Some of the intersections they're at, there's plenty of accidents, plenty of near misses, plenty of congestion. And having a pedestrian remain in that area is just a recipe for disaster. Now, we do have another ordinance that we are not replacing about soliciting 2 different matters. I would recommend that proceed. Yes. I believe it would be an effective tool to control people who are attempting to, I don't want to say, I guess in some scenarios they want to take over the intersection, but to move them along. Doesn't mean you can't stop and pause, go with safety across those intersections, but you have to keep moving in a reasonable amount of time.
Any questions?
I don't have a question, but I have one comment that if this passes tonight, Chief, and with it being in a 2-block radius of either intersection, I hope we'll increase enforcement on the other ordinances we have in place as well, because as you well know, they're still there.
They're still there.
All right. Buddy, we have no other questions. I'll entertain a motion.
We have one person wishing to speak.
Sorry, I apologize. Thank you.
Joyce Driley.
Public testimony on this. Anybody wish?
Joyce Dryling, 6404 Buena Vista Drive, Greenville, Texas. The list that was put out, I know 66 at 69 was not on that list. I've come out of industrial and people are standing at the intersection collecting money. Usually it's a church that's not even inside the city limit. So I would like to see 66 at 69.
Well, 69 is on there. Are you talking about this? Yeah. The 69 is, you're talking about at the intersection of 66, which would be covered by this. Because it's everything within 2 blocks of the 5 highways.
It goes so far.
Yeah.
Want to make sure that intersection.
Yes, that was one of the intersections we discussed specifically, looking at
I
this.
just, I didn't see.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah, that
you.
will be covered.
How far is a block in a place that doesn't
It's-
have a block?
Want to go into executives?
Okay, but all I need to know is that the right way to say it rather than number of feet?
The problem with the number of feet, so a whole lot of weird situations have blocks that go in people's neighborhoods, like you do right up here on 30 as it gets closer in neighborhoods, or on these other ones. Being 2 blocks, generally going to be in almost every place than number of feet.
Okay.
And we can go, that was a major point of discussion. That was most of the discussion about how to set this up.
Okay.
But it can certainly be changed.
No, I'm satisfied.
Any other question? Anybody else, public testimony?
I have a question. Oh,
All right, at this time, I'll close the public testimony on this. Jerry, you have a question?
just to address Ms. Dryling's question, if you take that intersection of 69 and 66,
yeah,
I would assume that would extend 2 blocks north on 69, 2 blocks south or southeast on 69.
It's all of 60, 2 blocks in every direction.
Okay, right. And then since 66 doesn't cross 69 at that point, it dead ends there. I'm assuming it would go 2 blocks southwest on 69 in that case, right?
On 66?
On 66, yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Which is, I mean, I'm sure if you're familiar with the block layout, that's a lot further right there than it is in almost every other area.
On West
Because the blocks are bigger. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve?
Al? Do I have a second?
Second.
Brent? Please give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
Yep, you got it.
All right, we had 6-0. Thank you. All right, item B, consideration and action on an ordinance accepting a managed services contract proposal for all city phone services and the iPhone media. Alia?
Mayor and Council, this is just a renewal of the contract that we've had with iPro Media since 2012. They're responsible for all of our phone, fax systems, as well as the equipment. This renewal will be for the same amount that the city pays currently. So not an increase. And I'll take any questions.
Any questions? Okay. All right, at this time, I will open it up to public testimony. Does anybody have any questions concerning this or any comments they'd like to make on this? At this time, I'll close heard. At this time, I will close the public testimony on that. Is there any questions from the council? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Move to approve. Brent?
Second.
John seconds. John, you're going to vote? Would you please vote? Thank you. 6-0.
Yes. Yes.
Work on it. Item C, consideration and action on an ordinance authorizing a professional contract agreement with Vanda Construction to provide various water sewer service connections for the city of Greenville for a 1-year period with 1-year extension option. Press?
Yes, sir. Good evening. This was a pilot program that was started last year that helped our construction crews, our water crews, to do our water and sewer taps on new construction. It worked extremely well. It freed up our crews to do the maintenance and construction that we need to be doing. It's paid for out of the tap fees that we collect for water and sewer, so there's no cost to the city per se, because we are collecting monies to cover this cost. And I'd like to continue this program because, like I said, it was extremely beneficial to us and helped us out tremendously.
Anybody have any questions on it? All right, thank you, Press. This time I will open it up for public testimony. Does anybody have any comments they would like to make on this? None heard. I'll close public testimony. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
For approval.
Cedric? Thank you. Cedric? Al, please vote. Al? Passes 6-0. Thank you.
Person who seconds does have to vote still, right? It's a new thing we're doing.
Still got
Yeah, that's a new thing.
All right, moving on to resolution. Consideration and action on a resolution authorizing me to sign the CARES Act as a filing authority for application on grant agreement for the CARES Act. Summer?
Yes, Mayor, this will authorize you, if you know that with the CARES Act, all the cities were allocated a certain amount of money. Right now, we are able to collect 20% of that. You signing this document will allow us to collect our 20% of that money that is allocated to our city based on population numbers, which is $55 per population. This will be for money that we could use for expenses for the COVID pandemic. There are certain guidelines that the Texas Division of Emergency Management allows us to use those funds for. This will approximately give us originally around $317,000, and then the other 80% that is allocated to us based on our population, we will be applying for on a reimbursement basis.
And this funding can only be used for things associated with the pandemic. It can't use it to beef up holes in the budget. Strictly for things like that. We have between, I think it's the 1st of March and the end of December to expend it. And given the numbers they had in for Greenville, we get 300, sign it right away, we get 317.61 with a max for the year of $1,586,805. And based on discussions that I've had with several other mayors on that, it's been shown that if we were to come up with an expense that exceeded our $1.6 million, justify it, then the money would be added to that. So it's distributed out at 55 per capita, what it was identified. That's the way they did across the state. So state got, I think it was 5.8 billion, and 6 cities and 12 counties that each had over 500,000 people. They got their money automatically. They got 20%, and the rest of the cities got their money. So in case of Hunt County gets money based upon the population of county minus Greenville and Caddo Mills and Campbell and Celeste and all the cities. Each of those cities get their own money. So it's not a matter that we've got to work with the county to be able to spend the money. We've got our own pot of money on that. Are there any questions on it? If not, I'll open it up to the public.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
What were some of the expenditures?
Well, one of the things, since we're having open meetings like this to get new equipment here,
right?
The fact that we've had people working and we were trying to support, I don't know whether that would be supported. Summer, you got some other ideas?
Overtime costs to respond to the pandemic, public safety, first responders, technology costs, PPE supplies, sanitation supplies, anything.
There's something here for mental health.
Only if it's associated with the pandemic.
I don't recall anything. I'd have to look further. I don't
Okay,
recall
that's
anything.
fine.
The full set of regulations haven't been yet on what the money can be spent on. Right now, the money it goes for COVID-19 related expenses that are incurred from March through December 29. And they have general regulations, general categories. I think about a 5-page document on the website, but the very specific things have not yet been released. In fact, in the commissioner's report this morning, we had this very same discussion, and they're going to be sending requests for clarification, asking about how some of that money. Because this morning there were volunteer fire departments asking money that was costs incurred because of the responses. So unfortunately, we don't know everything. Those are the general categories that she said. I looked through that this morning. There's nothing in there that specifically talks about mental health. But if there's mental health staffing that's done because of COVID-19, if it falls into the right categories, potentially first. The downside to getting one of those questions wrong is that we don't get, we have to pay that money back to the state government, pay it back to the federal government.
I asked Betsy Price, the mayor from Fort Worth, about how they looked at it. Did they do categories? She said what Fort Worth did is they put together a list of what they expected to spend money on, specific items, sent that in and said, what do you think about this? And they got a response back that those all looked like they would be accepted.
Yeah.
Because I asked the specific question, if we get to the 20% then we want to go beyond, I'd like to know that what we've spent that 20% on is still valid and acceptable. I don't want to find out in December, oh, you owe us for that.
Yeah.
And commented on that they had sent in a list, not a guaranteed list, but a tentative list of what they expected to spend it on. And they got the impression that it was acceptable.
Yeah. Well, I've talked to a lot of state agents the past 6 weeks. And what I can tell you is when it comes to anything related to COVID-19, get a different answer depending on who you talk to.
I'm sure
it's
you will.
very difficult to get something in writing, but if they do respond in writing, then that gives us the chance to rely on that later on. So I think that that's a really good idea that we should definitely.
But at the end of the day, every submission will have to justify.
That's correct. And it's not clear when, but it's called I forgot the name of it. It's a single something of the finance.
Single audit?
Single audit. And so it'll be part of our auditing, but then the federal government can come in and look at all of the receipts, what we spent on, to ensure that, we did our own audit the right way.
Anybody in the audience that picked up a package, wanted to read it, this document is in there. It's a nice reading 25 pages of legal gobbledygook. Should help you sleeping.
That's
Any other
interesting.
questions?
One more thing. My apologies. I was correct. I had meant to ask this question. I got it on the wrong subject. It was to be on the grant funding, which there was $300,000 allotted to mental health office for homelessness.
We've gone beyond that.
I understand that. I'm just apologizing.
Okay.
I made a mistake.
All right. At this time, I will open it up to public testimony. Anybody wish to comment?
No.
All right. None heard. I will unless there's other discussions on this subject, John, that I will entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move.
Second. Second. Please vote. Passes 6-0. Thank you. Item 8B, consideration action on a resolution extending signage on FM 1570 and adding signage to Interstate 30 in memory of Judge John L. Horn. Jerry, you want to address it? Please.
Well, I was involved. The mayor asked me.
Can you, microphone?
Afraid I'd sneeze. Anyway, as you know, John Horn was very instrumental in working through our highway plan. Had a great passion for that, and one of the things he was interested in, of course, is very interested in redoing the overpass at I-30 and 1570. And there was a hope at one time that 1570 all the way from 380 to 34 could be named the John L. Horn Parkway. Unfortunately, there are about 4 or 5 parcels of land in vicinity of I-30 and what we know as 1570 that aren't in the city, and so we, because of that, we are unable to name that street or name it in his honor all the way around. So what we have done is, of course, there are 2 segments of that and this is all intended so he could have a sign on. There could be a sign on I-30 memorializing this, that there'd be a sign that said 1570 north and south. There would be a sign, I don't know, quarter of a mile east of I-30 from that intersection, and quarter of a mile west that said John L. Horn Parkway. We were unable to do that because we were unable to name the street. So a compromise was worked out with the state whereby we could name it John L. Horn South of I-30, south of Monty Stratton. Am I making any sense? Okay. Anyway, and continue with it would be Monty Stratton north of I-30 and Monty Stratton, John L. Horn Parkway south of I-30. Okay. So then the signs would be on the, actually on I-30, it would read Monty Stratton north, John L. Horn south. Took that intersection. So there'd be a sign east of that, a sign west. And we've spoken with Julie Horn, Judge Horn's widow, and she is happy with that. So state would add signs on I-30 that would identify that. Now, there's another problem that I noticed in working through this. Take the segment from I-30, the 1570 segment from I-30 to Highway 34. There's a brown sign that says it's John on the E. If you go westbound on I-30 on 1570 from 34, there's a sign that bears his. Not one if you come off the exit of I-30 going eastbound on 3. So we worked out, we've asked that the city council include a sign there. Same for the section from 66 to 80. Needs to be a sign that identifies the northbound portion of John Hill. Those will be brown signs. So are there any questions? I'm sure from that description there must be a lot of questions, right?
So it'll be the same exit if you Monty Stratton and John L. Horn Park.
Yes, Monty Stratton will still continue to go north towards Paris Junior College, okay? But John Horn will go south on what is now a unimproved road all the way down, yes. Okay. And eventually I assume that road will intersect 1570, what is now 1570, which is now John Horn Parkway also.
So will the exit sign tell motorists that they are exiting on Monty Stratton and John L. Horn?
If they go north, and yes, if they go north, if you're eastbound, it's like Monty, north.
They'll have
and there would be a
like Knox or something.
Right.
There'd be a sign on I accomplish. On additional thing, other Browns, I-30, 34 segment, well as sign on each.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. The 66th
I'm sorry.
Street.
Okay, if you exit 380
Right.
on what is John Elm, there's a brown sign there that memorializes
Right.
that. But if you're on 66 and go northbound, you want to call that north or northwest.
Right.
There's not a brown sign
So
there.
we're still gonna have 1570 John L. Horn Parkway and Monty Stratton.
Yes, that's what we talked about.
I thought we were gonna do one or the other.
No, it's not what I understood, and I don't think that's what the council understood.
That was, I mean,
In the packet, it indicated just assigned to John L. Horn Parkway.
What?
Right here.
When we talked about it in executive session, I was confused, and I said, "Are we going to have two different ones? We're going to have one that's over here and one that's over there." And my understanding was that that we were going to let Julie pick which one she wanted.
That was not my understanding. No, was not my understanding at all, and I don't think that's what I described to the city council when we discussed that, Brent.
Well, I'm sorry if I misunderstood. That was a question I asked because I think it'd be awfully.
Go ahead. Those are the brown signs. Those are the brown signs we're talking about.
Those will be the green signs. That's just a rendition for the cost estimate. It would say the Monty Stratton / John L. Horn Parkway.
It'll
That's
say
what
both.
TxDOT sent me for a cost estimate.
I remember asking for. It doesn't matter what I asked for. I guess my concern would be that we have two different streets with the same name, different places in town, and so one of them is already established as John L. Horn Parkway, and that's I mean people know where that is. I think for the most part, and I think if we add a completely different unrelated road, that would be confusing. And so I asked when this came up before, how to fix that. And my understanding was that we were going to let Julie pick which one. And I said, well, it's up to her. I mean, I'm fine honoring him in any way, but I think it's confusing to have two different streets named the same thing.
I understand.
What's your? Yeah.
Well, take it a second. He'd asked that question.
She specifically asked if the brown sign, she was interested in the brown sign staying up. And we can go back to her. Maybe somebody besides me needs to go back to her this time.
I don't
But
want to cause any problems.
But it was my understanding that I think the original goal was to have signs on I-30. Okay. Couldn't meet that goal because the parcels that are not a part of the city, we couldn't name 1570 all the way around. So it couldn't become John Horn Parkway from 380 to 34 because of annexation. There are about six parcels there that are outside the city limits. So,
I think that's a dumb rule, and nobody asked me if they could put that rule on it. I mean, I think it seems to me that the thing that makes the most sense is what the state's telling us we can't do.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
It seems like to me that the thing that makes the most sense is what the state is telling us we can't do, which is to put the brown signs on I-30, directing people.
These won't be brown signs on I-30. They'll be green signs.
Yeah, they'll be the big green signs.
Well, okay, but even the green signs, we can't put green signs on I-30 saying John L. Horn Parkway is this way on 1570.
No.
Yeah,
No.
that's dumb.
We agree.
Yeah, no, I
not
think
disagreeing.
I agree with everybody, but
We're not here to.
okay. And so it's dumb that we can't do that. I don't understand why we can't do that. And I understand the desire to have something on I-30 that commemorates him. But I don't think that we should have 1570 named John L. Horn Parkway and Bonnie Stratton South also named John L. Horn Parkway.
It already is named.
Say, I mean, technically speaking, 1570 is not John L. Park. It's just got the memorial sign on. So we
Yeah.
didn't rename that road.
Yeah, okay.
Like we did Jack
Technically.
Finney. We
Well,
did not technically.
I
rename
got you.
So technically,
I do not. I do want to honor John Horn. I want to honor him in a way that commemorates the work that he's done for this county and for and I want Julie to feel like the city council has done what we have agreed to do to get the signs and all of that kind of stuff. I don't like the idea of two different. It's confusing. Where is John L. Horn Parkway? Well, it's over on 1570, and it's also over here on Monty Stratton, and I don't think that makes sense.
I think
Look
one
at
is
the-
John L. Horn Memorial Highway on 50.
Same thing. I mean,
well,
if all of a sudden you renamed, Greenville Avenue LBJ Freeway, it would be, or LBJ Highway, it would be confusing. It doesn't make sense. So I misunderstood when we talked about it, I guess earlier, or
The way I just described this, I can understand why you might have misunderstood.
well, I
Also-
want to be
also-
as gracious as I possibly can be.
Well,
but
I'll be
I
happy to
don't-
go
I don't
back
wanna
and
be
see. I
confusing.
guess I need to know what the pleasure of the council is because
It's going up on 1570.
John is already
Uh,
on 15. Yeah.
But the street is not changed.
correct.
Just
It's
the
still
sign.
1570.
So what's the point in putting signs?
Because the point is to have the big, huge green signs on Interstate 30. And we cannot do that at FM 1570 and I-30 because that is not in city limits and we cannot rename roads.
And
City
the-
does not have the authority.
And the county doesn't have the authority to do that?
Yeah. That's I know that sounds extremely stupid, and I agree that it is. And Dan Flynn came and weighed in on this and tried to
yes,
get around it. And TxDOT says absolutely not. We can't do it unless we annex all that land, bring that whole road in, and then we get agreement from everybody on that road, basically, to change, which we're never going to get. None of that's ever going to happen.
Because then all those people have to change their address.
That's right.
I think the original goal was to have signs on I-30. That was the accommodation we made when Summer and I met with the TxDOT.
If you're heading eastbound, isn't there a separate exit?
Well, of course there is.
Yes.
So, where are you going to name it?
Right there at 1570.
Wherever the current one is.
Okay, so Monty Stratton will become a dual
Right.
road. And you'll have to back up to get to.
So you just putting name exit.
Well, it's an actual street. It's not
It's
paved.
not the name.
Does anybody
Not
have,
the name of a big sign like when you go to any. I'm looking for a certain highway. I don't need you to call it George Bush.
Any other comment?
Okay.
does anybody have
Agreed.
does anybody have a Monty Stratton address yet along Monty Stratton?
PJC.
PJC only?
Not really.
No. I mean, I was just.
Well, I understand your concerns, Mr. Money, about multiple street names. I guess technically it's not 1570 is not really 15. It's not
It's
really
still
John Horn,
1570,
but there are
correct.
signs that memorialize his contribution there. There's two brown signs, one on the 380 section, if you will, and one on the 34 section. And in my investigation on that, I felt like there should be another sign on each end of that to show.
I don't want to make it more complicated, but I'd rather rename all of Monty Stratton, John L. Horn, the whole thing, and then get rid of the brown signs on 1570 to avoid the confusion.
But the benefit was because of the work that he did on 70 recognize him for that.
Right, I know, but I mean, if you try to recognize the same person on multiple different streets, it gets confusing. Even if the person deserves it, we need to pick a street and name that after him.
Well, I think what Summer's saying from a Google standpoint, it's never going to show up on Google as two streets. I don't think that, I mean, if you Google those, I don't think it'll show up that way. It's going to show up as 1570 and it's going to show up as that segment, the new street. I don't know, that, but I'm speculating. So I'll be glad to do anything, or perhaps you'd like to fire me and get somebody else involved. So whatever you'd like to do.
But one side of Money Stratton gonna be.
And one's
gonna
Yeah, so if you come off the exit, you know, like you do in Dallas, you come off on, if you take a right, you're going on, you look up and you're okay, I'm on this street. You take a left, you're on a totally different street. Same concept. So you exit off of there, say you're going eastbound, you take a right, obviously you'll be going down John L. Horn Parkway. If you were to take a left and go under, you would be going on Monty Stratton or Monty Stratton.
But you're saying like what you're saying is two streets running parallel to each other. One going this way on Horn and one this way.
No, same street.
Oh, I'm about to say.
No,
North
same
of
street.
I-30, it's Monty Stratton. South of I-30,
Yes.
it's John Hornford.
Yeah, same street.
We have any, I mean, where is it in our capital plan to extend Monty Stratton or
That was all.
south?
That was.
It gets in the thoroughfare plan.
Right,
I have to
and
look.
I mean, I'm saying, is that a 5-year, 10-year project?
I can't remember. I'll look it up for you.
PERS money, that's about $7 million.
$7 million. So
You
it's
gotta
going to be
tear it
almost-
up and fix it first.
Yeah.
Got to tear it up and fix it.
Part of the 7 million, tear it out and put it in 4 lane.
Okay.
All right, any other comments before I open this up to public testimony? Opening it up to public testimony. Anybody wish to clarify or comment on this?
Wayne Morris.
Where's your mask?
Great thing. Very good thing. Nobody's talked about how much these signs cost. Something I want to say around $31,000.
Ballpark, I think.
Okay. $31,000 on this year's budget or next year's? Guess that depends. I think it's a great idea, but I'd like to see it happen. But I think right now it might be better try and fund it off of next year's budget. The reason I'm saying that is perhaps that would give some opportunity to negotiate with the county, pay part of it since he was a county judge. Secondly, maybe some private funding. And the only reason I'm saying that is, what kind of message are we sending right now? We just jacked up just about everybody's property taxes. We just spent $20,000.
Mr. Morris, let me clarify one fact there.
Yes.
City did not.
No,
jack up
I understand that.
taxes.
I understand
The
that.
appraisals did. So saying that the city raised everybody's taxes.
No,
is not
what
correct.
I'm saying, Mr. Mayor, is that everybody's taxes just went up. And our city taxes will go up, our county taxes will go up, our school district taxes. I'm not trying to split hairs, Mr. Mayor. But all I'm saying is that
Appraised
if
value
we
is gone.
add $30,000 to the $20,000 we just spent on lunches, what kind of message are we sending to people right now in the county that are unemployed, underemployed, or wondering how much, what else they're going to have to cut to pay the county's newest appraisal that will raise all their taxes? I'm not saying don't do it, but consider what kind of message we're saying. Is it better to pass it, work on it, and see if we can't split funding out among all those concerned? Private donations, like I mentioned, maybe the county would pick up some, and the city the rest. All I'm saying is just let's focus on the message. Well, it's great to honor this person. Let's stop and think what people's sensitivities are right now. I don't know anybody personally that's not personally upset about their taxes through no fault of the city. I recognize that, sir, and most of them do. I've already explained to some people, it's not the city that's driving your taxes up. It's the appraisal district. But all they see is all those 4 blocks going up. So I'm just saying, let's consider the message. Let's get it done, but let's do it maybe a little cost sharing. He was a well-known man, very well-respected man, that maybe we can use multiple mechanisms, put up signs wherever we can get them, and do this man a good justification. But let's concentrate on the message a little bit too that we're sending everybody in the city. All they're going to see is, by gosh, the city's spending my money again. No, they're not. They're not wasting the money. But let's get a little cost sharing. Let's explore that at least. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Buddy Crump.
Who else?
Buddy?
Did I just hear right as we're talking about expenditure of $31,000? I couldn't hear back there.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Again, I'll echo what Mr. Morris just said. Is the timing for this right? We got an unincorporated road out there that nobody's using really to speak of. We're going to spend money for signage. Why don't we wait till we develop the road or wait till next year or see if the CARES Act will get this in? Well, why take it out of our budget now? All this discussion on this road reminds me of the road at the airport that's supposed to be coming straight out to the highway that has been turned over to engineers in 2010 for a study. As soon as that study's over with, we're going to do it. I don't think that study's ever been done. I know when I retired in 2014, it was still under engineering review. Why are we spending money now when it should be waited until such time as we get through this virus, see what all it's going to affect, how it's going to affect our citizens, how it's going to affect our employees? You know, how many employees are working from home? How many employees are worried about their job? You got all our population, and Mary, I think you said 30-some odd thousand people out here now, probably, hopefully. You got 30,000 people living in this town wondering, why are we spending things? Why aren't we cutting budget? Why aren't you helping us? And I all do respect Mr. Warren. I have nothing against you doing it. I just think the timing is bad. I ask you to reconsider it, the $31,000 expenditure.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
Those are the only thoughts.
James?
I hadn't planned to speak on this, but memories are very important to me, and the history is important to me, all phases of it, especially Greenville. I happen to be old enough and lived in town long enough. I remember Miss Stratton in Wesley Church up when it was back on Wesley Street. She was in my mom's Sunday school class, very fine lady. I want to honor, I'm very much for the city paying honor to Judge John Horn. He's a fantastic man, fantastic. I do not want to see us do anything, though, to hurt the memory of Monty Stratton. I remember James Stewart played Monty Stratton in the Monty Stratton story. We saw it at the Texan Theater. My parents, we didn't go to a lot of movies. Money was tight. When Monty Stratton story came out, we were down there watching that. If you haven't seen the movie, watch it. Monty Stratton, that is a piece of Greenville history. Very, very important to us. Very important. I don't think Judge Horn, in my mind, knowing him like I do, I don't think he would want to take Monty Stratton's name off of that piece of road. So let's find a way to honor both people. They're both important citizens for this town. The memories are very important to me. I want them both honored, but I don't think either one would want to take the other one's name off of something that's important. And I smile every time I go down that highway and I see Monty Stratton Boulevard, because I remember my mom and Miss Stratton, after my dad passed away, they sat together in church, again in Sunday school. That was a fantastic lady. I don't remember Mr. Stratton, but I know the history, and I grew up. That was a famous person in Greenville, Texas. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, this time I will close public testimony. I'll entertain a motion.
A question. I'm just going to muck it up a little bit more. Is this street right here, Business 69? Is this Moulton all the way out here? No.
No.
Does it have a name?
Business 69.
It's Business 69, but it's Moulton once you turn
After you cross 30.
after you cross 30. Okay. So could we not name this John Horn? It's an existing road. It has
Business 69 is TxDOT.
okay, but Business 69 is Moulton, Business 69 is Park, Business 69 is Johnson, Stonewall. So could we not name this John Horn?
It has TxDOT, certainly.
I think I would like to table it and look at some other options. I'll make a motion to table and look at some other options. I do want to honor him. I appreciate the work that Jerry and other people have done to try to honor his memory, but I don't like the idea of spending more on a sign than we've spent on a dirt road that's just going to sit there. And so I'd like to see if we could maybe come up with something else.
Did you mean
Do I have a
motion to
second?
postpone?
A motion to postpone.
I'll second the motion.
Table it.
And then we have a time period?
At least till next meeting, but we can, I don't know how long it will take. I don't want to do it indefinitely, but I think it's a permanent decision that needs to make sure we've addressed all these issues. Say a month, postpone it for a month.
Okay, table doesn't have to be with.
I believe we can.
If you
table
put it on, if you put it on the table, it's supposed to be brought back at the very same meeting. You put something on the table to discuss something more important.
Yeah, but if you postpone something, you can postpone to any date in the future.
Correct. Or
Your
indefinite.
motion is to table or to postpone?
Postpone.
I'll renew my second.
Okay, Brent's got request to postpone, and you're setting a date or?
Indefinitely. We'll find a time. When we have a plan, we'll bring it back.
Al, seconds. Please designate whether you approve or not. Jerry, we need to vote. 1, 2. So it's 3-3. Motion fails. We'll entertain a motion to approve as submitted. I'll make a motion to approve it as submitted. I think we've spent a lot of time on this. We've gone through it. We've looked at it. We've had extensive discussions prior to this meeting, and it's been there. I think we all have talked about it, and I don't think that we need to keep reverberating and going back and saying, well, gee, what else could we do? We could do that forever. I think that we came up with a plan. We talked about the plan. We've got approval to do that. We've got everything lined up to do it. I think we ought to go ahead and.
I don't know how much time that a lot of people here have spent a lot more time than me, but this is the second time it's ever been brought to me. First time was in an executive session. And, I said we should go back to Julie and ask her which one she preferred. And this is the second time we're hearing about it, and I'm hearing both. So I'm not dismissing the amount of time that's been spent by a lot of people here working on it, but I don't think it's been, at least at the council level, been worked on a lot, and I think it needs a little more time.
Just listening to the discussion and still the obvious confusion of what's going to transpire. I mean, I highly respected Judge Horn myself, but at this time I can't support it until we get some more clarification. And I also take into consideration the citizen comments about the budgetary optics at this time. So I would, if we have to vote tonight, I can't support it.
Maybe I've added to the confusion, but I don't know. I mean, I think it's fairly obvious what we're voting on. I don't think there's any confusion with regard to that at all. If you don't want to vote for it, that's fine, but maybe I've confused the issue, but I think it's fairly apparent what the proposal is. So I don't know. I personally think that Don Horn worked for many years to develop this, what I think is a $224 million package for our county and our area, and I think it should be. How much?
24 million.
Our portion is 24 million. I think
Yeah, it's over 200 million.
It's over $200 million.
It's built up that way from money, additional money.
I think it's $224 million, and I think I'm not in favor. I don't think there's any reason to delay this or delay honoring him myself. I think he needs to be honored as soon as possible. So that was the accommodation we worked out. If it's not I don't think there's any confusion about what we're voting for. If you don't want to vote for it, well, don't vote for it. But I think it's clear. So
I don't think it's confusion on should we vote for it or not. I think that a lot of people want to honor Judge. I think it's on which streets honor him on. I think we also should take into consideration what the citizens are saying. Once you start listening to everybody, get a consensus get a perspective from what we see, what the citizens, I believe, a bunch of people may have a sentimental touch when it comes down to going. But I think overall, when you look at the timing right now on passing this, then I think also find out exactly which I don't see why we do.
Any other comments? Are you seconded that? Is that correct?
I'll second.
All right. Right now I have a motion that I made and it's been seconded by Jerry to approve it as written. Please vote. 3-3 again. Three to three. Okay, we'll move on to the next item. Got consent calendar. That's the city council meeting minutes from May 12th and from our emergency city council meeting on May 16th. Is there any comments or questions on that? I'll open it up to public testimony. Anybody have questions on that? I'll close that. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Al? Cedric? Please vote. Al? Passes 6-0. Thank you. All right. We have city staff, city council reports. Dahlia, you're going to tell us about the comprehensive financial report.
Thank you, Mayor. This report will be as of April 30th, at which point we are 58% through the fiscal year.
Not very loud.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Looking at the general fund as of April 30th, 2020, revenues are at 17.9 million, or 71% of expected collections. Expenditures are 15.3 million, or 59% of budgeted expectations. The largest part of our revenue will be property tax at 7.9 million, and expenditures, the largest portion is public safety at 8.6 million. Sales tax. This is year to date through April. At that point, sales tax collections are up $292,000 or 6.5% compared to the year to date number as of April 2019. At the bottom of the screen, you can see the remaining sales tax to collect in order to meet our target, which is 2.8 million.
What month taxes are reported in?
So that's, you're going to have February. It's February numbers, and then March and then April is when we get those. So
we haven't seen our COVID numbers.
Correct.
Okay.
Sales tax versus comparison cities. This is the portion of that number that the city receives. So the city portion of the current period collections was 533,000 remitted for April, which, just only looking at the month of April compared to 2019, was a decrease of 0.6%. These are taxes collected in February, reported in March, and received in April by the city. Looking at the history of April sales tax over the last several years, you can see just a little bit of a decline. Again, this is just the month of April. Water and sewer fund revenues through April as a percent of budget. In total, water and sewer fund revenues are 7.6 million or 53% of budgeted expectations. Hotel motel, obviously we had a pretty rough month in April. This number is not as delayed as sales tax. This is more of a previous month. So we're looking at kind of March information here. So that number has decreased 44% from the prior year. So we kind of expected that going into this, with the lockdowns and everything. So, any questions? I'm sorry?
Anybody have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Summer, you got an update for us?
Yes, nothing on paper. I was just going to mention at the last city council meeting, Mr. Ransom requested that staff put together options for an additional exemption. And so Talia and myself are currently working with our financial advisor, Stephen Adams, to analyze those numbers. And we should be prepared to bring this to council at the next council meeting.
Thank you. All right. Any items proposed for the next agenda? I have one. I would like the explanation from the head of the trash people of what he's going to do to get his people to quit dumping trash in the street. I've had to sweep trash that they didn't dump in the truck three pickups in a row, and they don't always empty the trash can. So I want to know what he's going to do. We're going to pay this guy to do the job. I expect it to be done properly. Otherwise, we'll go out.
There was a long Facebook thread that I believe us.
That's how you wash out your trash.
They shut mine today. They shut my lid today, but I looked out there and I couldn't find it. It had floated a half a block down the street.
Oh.
Yeah. Anybody have anything else? All right, moving on. Board and commission minutes. Anybody have any questions? Daniel, we need to go to executive session.
For once, on the record.
Moving right along, it is 7:42 and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you. James?